On November 3rd, 1998, in Jacksonville, Florida, a quiet working-class neighborhood where kids rode bikes until the streetlights flickered on was about to face a nightmare no parent could ever imagine. That afternoon, 8-year-old Maddie Clifton vanished. One moment she was outside playing, the next she was gone. Within hours, neighbors filled the streets calling her name, while police and volunteers searched backyards, wooded lots, and drainage ditches. Maddie's smiling face appeared on missing person flyers plastered to lampposts and telephone poles. For days, the community lived in fear, gathering for candlelight vigils and praying desperately for her safe return. But the truth was even darker. Maddie had never left her street. Her small body was hidden just a few feet from home, concealed under the bed of her 14-year-old neighbor, Joshua Phillips. Before we continue with this chilling case, don't forget to support Dark Side Secrets by liking this video, sharing it with friends, and subscribing so you never miss the disturbing true crime stories we uncover. Josh Phillips lived only a few doors down from Maddie. At first glance, he was the type of kid most parents would describe as a good boy. Quiet, shy, polite. He loved playing baseball, spent hours on video games, and was considered well-behaved at school. But behind the closed doors of his family's home, the atmosphere was suffocating. Josh's father, Steve Phillips, had a reputation for being controlling and explosive. He worked long hours and demanded absolute obedience. Josh, by all accounts, lived in constant fear of disappointing him. That fear would play a central role in one of the most disturbing child murder cases in American history. On the afternoon Maddie vanished, she had been outside playing with friends after school, still in her red shirt and dark pants. At some point, she ended up at Josh's house. To this day, it's unclear whether she wandered in uninvited or whether Josh invited her. What is known as chilling. At some moment inside his bedroom, Josh struck Maddie in the head with a baseball bat. Later, he told investigators it was an accident, that he had been swinging the bat around, panicked when Maddie was hurt, and didn't know what to do. But what happened next was not an accident. Instead of running for help, Josh dragged Maddie's bleeding body under his bed. When she began to cry and moan in pain, his panic deepened. Terrified his father would come home and discover a girl inside the house, Josh did the unthinkable. He smothered her, then stabbed her multiple times with a knife until she fell silent. He wrapped her body in his bedsheet and shoved it deeper under the bed frame. For the next 7 days, the Clifton family and the entire Jacksonville community lived in agony, desperately searching for Maddie. News stations covered the case daily. Volunteers lined up to hand out flyers. The FBI joined the investigation. Helicopters scanned the neighborhood with infrared cameras, and divers checked retention ponds. Maddie's parents, Steve and Sheila Clifton, appeared on television begging for her safe return. All the while, her tiny body lay decomposing just beneath Josh's bed. Josh continued his life as if nothing had happened. He ate dinner with his parents, went to school, and even played baseball, all while sleeping above the remains of the little girl everyone was looking for. The odor of decomposition eventually became undeniable. On November 10th, 1 week after Maddie's disappearance, Josh's mother, Melissa Phillips, was cleaning his room when she noticed the smell. She bent down and peered under his bed. What she saw would haunt her forever: Maddie's body, wrapped in bedding, hidden away in the darkness. Screaming, she called the police. When detectives arrived, Josh quickly broke down. In his statement, he claimed he had never meant to kill Maddie, insisting that everything spiraled out of fear of his father's temper. He described striking her with a bat, panicking, and then killing her in an effort to silence her cries. But prosecutors saw it differently. They pointed to the repeated stab wounds, the prolonged torture, and the fact that Josh lived for a week with her body as evidence that this was far more than an accident. The trial of Joshua Phillips in 1999 gripped the nation. At just 14 years old, he was tried as an adult for first-degree murder. Courtrooms were packed with reporters. The prosecution painted him as a manipulative killer who valued his own safety over a child's life. The defense argued he was a terrified boy who snapped under pressure from a violent household. Jurors were shown crime scene photos. They heard about the unbearable stench in Josh's bedroom. They read his confession word for word. The most haunting image of all was the idea that for 7 days, a teenager had slept just inches above the lifeless body of his neighbor, a girl who had trusted him enough to play in his yard. After only 2 hours of deliberation, the jury returned a guilty verdict. Joshua Phillips was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He was 15 years old, one of the youngest inmates in the United States serving a life sentence. The case sparked debate across America. Should a 14-year-old be locked away forever? Was Josh a cold-blooded murderer, or a boy whose actions were shaped by a fearful environment? Advocates pointed to his strict upbringing and argued he acted out of irrational panic. But for Maddie's grieving family, those debates were meaningless. Their daughter was gone forever, taken in the most unimaginable way by the boy next door. Years later, Josh expressed remorse. In prison interviews, he admitted the crushing guilt he carried every day. In 2017, after a Supreme Court ruling declared mandatory life sentences for juveniles unconstitutional, he was resentenced to life with the possibility of parole after 25 years. This means Josh could have his first chance at release in the 2020s, though Maddie's family and much of the community remain firmly opposed. For Jacksonville, the memory of Maddie Clifton endures. Her case is retold in documentaries, true crime books, and classrooms discussing juvenile justice. A memorial scholarship was even established in her name, ensuring her short life continues to inspire others. The story of Josh Phillips is a chilling reminder that evil doesn't always come from strangers lurking in dark alleys. Sometimes, the danger is much closer, in the homes we trust, on the streets where our children play, or even in the room right next door. Thank you for watching this story on Dark Side Secrets. If you found it important, disturbing, or eye-opening, please take a moment to like this video, share it so more people learn Maddie's story, and subscribe to the channel for more true crime documentaries. Because the more we remember these cases, the closer we come to understanding the darkness that hides in plain